Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Mariam, for the introduction. And thank you to the Typecal team, of course, with Mariam, for organizing this. Yeah, last year you guys did a great event. It was in Kuwait, and you brought very interesting uh, designers and artists who are practicing in the field of type design. And I thought it was very inspiring. And now, when you came up with this idea to meet again, it was definitely something I'm happy to be part of. I suggested to make sort of a Q&A session, actually, to since it's a format that allows us to like be with a lot of people from different places. So not just to go about a traditional lecture format or a workshop format. I thought recently I've done a couple of workshops online, and I realized that the most interesting sort of an engaging part has been the Q&A about design, about the design process, about the business of running a design, about all the challenges that we are all facing now with sort of our world being changing upside down. So yeah, I thought a casual Q&A session would hopefully allow us to generate a good conversation and to network a little bit, meet designers interested in typography from all over the world, since the format is online now and allows us to connect much further. Yeah, and see how we can benefit from this, all of us, or get inspired or inspire. Uh, so I think the best way to do it is to really open for questions if anyone wants to discuss anything. I know Lubna and Mariam and we talked about some issues and questions we might have. So we might start with this. If anyone else have any questions, that's really, I mean, my goal of this is to make it as casual as possible. Uh, I would have wished to welcome everyone in the office and have sort of a round table, but now let's do it. Let's do it online in this format. I'm happy to share maybe also a little bit of the most recent work we've done during this last few weeks. So if there is a need for that, I can also share a couple of slides and talk particularly about type. But maybe let's start with some questions and see how we take it from there.
Can I start with the question from
Of course.
and I guess one of the questions that really pops out for me right now, because we're in this COVID time and everyone is going through their own emotional, physical mindset of frustrations. But how do you go about your day-to-day work effect on work of you, let's say in this current situation that we're all in?
Yeah, I mean, it's of course we are all facing sort of the same challenges. Maybe my first reaction, I mean, I always say it. I'm a designer, but at the same time, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running my design business. This year, we're celebrating 20 years. Actually, in August would be 20 years since we officially registered our business the first time. So of course, my first sort of reaction has been, okay, we're gonna face somehow an economic situation that we've never faced ever before. So the first reaction was more sort of the entrepreneurial slash business reaction, which is really a survival mode, trying to kind of like see what we are going to expect, see if we are going to survive this, see how we are going to survive this. To me, we have a small team. We are always a studio between 4 and 6 people, and kind of the first reaction becomes protecting your team. Like, are we able to keep the jobs for everyone? Are we able to continue? So sort of the first reaction of this was really a practical reaction. What are we going to do? What kind of business decisions are we going to make? Trying to anticipate how things will develop, even though I think in this period it has been impossible to anticipate anything. Yeah, and sort of the day-to-day challenge have been big because everything, literally our entire world changed immediately. Habits, day-to-day work, type of clients, reactions from clients, the type of design work. So I could see it literally. I mean, I almost had a journal just documenting how things are happening, just to look at it after. Like first reaction, of course, a lot of clients canceled projects. Like people panicked, of course, and stopped and expected the worst. Then as a second reaction, our complete like body of work changed. Suddenly we started having a lot of pharmaceutical clients, sort of like clients in the medical field, which we never had before. So we said, this is when we started realizing, oh, you know, like the world is changing, and then the demands are changing as well for it. I think most importantly, habits changed a lot also. Suddenly our clients became so much more efficient. And that's, I think, from working from home, like it's incredible. We started finishing projects in a fraction of a time than what we used to finish it before, because our clients would come up to us very quickly with clear feedback. I think they didn't waste any more times in meetings, and somehow it feels like they were much less efficient going to work, and everybody became much much more efficient, which was extremely strange and funny, but put a lot of pressure on us, because somehow things started to move much faster, and we found ourselves more busy all of a sudden. Yeah, and then I think with time, eventually we've noticed that more work was being generated, because the world literally is changing. And I think, you know, smart clients started to adapt on the long run, started to see how it's going to change, how they're going to change their concepts. People really realize that creativity and design as part of creativity plays a big role now in sort of saving your business, saving your approach, adjusting to the future, staying relevant, because it is definitely an abrupt change, and all of us had to adjust immediately to be part of it.
So I'm going to moderate the questions on behalf of those who've been typing up, and hopefully we'll have time for folks to answer. So basically, I'm just trying to make sure that I get them in the right, something just happened here, the chat, okay. So so I'm trying to make sure, yes. This is from Mohammed Turki. His question is that we have a lot of creative people in the field of typography, and especially in Arabic. But why is the content in Arabic poor, particularly in the side of books and resources?
Yeah, it is. It's simply because it has been a very new discipline. I mean, I started 20 years ago. There was literally nothing and no one and zero resources compared to now. And 20 years after, we are way ahead, but we are still very short on resources, particularly books as well. It's for two reasons. One, it's sort of a new development in our region, so it takes time. Also, for people to sort of reflect back and put things in a format of a book, let's say, you need kind of some time to practice, to evaluate, to think about it. It's also because it's new, there has been a lot of opportunities. So people have been more inclined to practice rather than to work with the theory, because, you know, once you build a body of knowledge, there is demand, you get busy in doing day-to-day work. However, this is an opportunity, of course. I mean, I think there is an opportunity to create content and develop content. And I don't think necessarily just the people who are practicing need to develop this. It could be someone who comes as a moderator and interviews all the practicing designers and try to collect content and put it. So to answer your question, to make it quick, it has the time has been very short. The development, we have been for 20 years really accelerating in the development of Arabic typography. But I think it's an opportunity, and I invite people to really consider providing content and looking at content. I know we want also to do it, but we are prioritizing what, you know, our body of work.
So another question from Aja Sweeney. As a freelancer, how should one price one's brand identity services, and what should it involve, according to you?
Good question. That's a question that's always tricky and always being asked. And Yeah, there is no black and white in pricing and design, actually. You're pricing a creative process. I mean, I've spent a total of 8 years in design schools, and nobody ever taught me like ABCD how to price. There is no formula for it. The way I go about it myself, I mean, I remember one of the memorable, I mean, I've talked a lot about it with designers as well. Also, when I was a student, I was asking when I was studying in New York, all my teachers were practicing people in the field. So I would always ask this question. And it's hard to get answered because on one hand, people don't want to share. Also, this is part of business. They don't want to share how much they earn or charge and so on. On the other hand, people have different process and different approach. So you can't really compare it. Even if you're looking at different pricing models, the process is different. But I had a talk at one point with Paula Scher from Pentagram Design, who was one of my teachers. And I found the way she summarized it was quite logical, because she said when we get a project, we try to estimate how much time we need for it. And from a commercial point of view, if we finish it, the faster we finish it, the more actually we're making commercial profit out of it. And here is the challenge. You have to finish it as fast as possible, as good as possible. And this is what's the balance in a strictly commercial but good company like Pentagram Design. So you might maybe you take more time than the estimated time. Then commercially it's a lost project, but you create great work. Maybe you finish it very quick, but it's not great work. So it's from a design point of view a lost project. And then the ideal is to finish it as quick as possible within the time to be commercially viable and successful and with the best design. It's impossible to answer a freelancer how to charge. The way I summarize it and say it, you're selling time. You're selling your time, and think what's the value of your time. When you are able to summarize in a project how much time you need, then you should price sort of your time, your days, not only in terms of like hourly fee, but everything. It should cover part of your education. It should cover part of your development, sort of the big picture. And also it should relate to how busy you are, because there's always like two types of designers in demand and designers not in demand. And when you are in demand, you kind of like start daring and raising your price. But when you don't have so much to do, you can be competitive with your price in order to build projects, to build the portfolio. So impossible to answer straightforward. This is part of the biggest challenges of design. Though it would be, speaking of books and resources, it would be very good if someone writes a book about pricing design. But I think it's a mission impossible.
Yeah, we face the same challenge in jewelry design, and we've the same ongoing debate. And I just wanted to get there was someone who just said in terms of workflow of this is from Hassan Ahmed Abdul Hamid, workflow of Arabic typeface and publishing it. How can I publish a typeface?
I think there are two ways to publish a typeface. You can, and it's pretty much like publishing a book, honestly. You can either go to a publisher, a type foundry, who will be publishing your typeface, your design. So sometimes they guide you to sort of make your font as good as possible within their standards of the foundry, and then they will publish it on their platform, promote it, distribute it and sell it, and usually give a percentage of the sales. So they become your publisher, and it varies a lot. Like small, fair type foundries sometimes give 50% of profit. Bigger, mega multinational type foundries give much lower, like a 15% or 10%. It really depends. That's one road to go. Or you decide to publish it yourself. This is what we do, for example, in our office. We decided early on from the career that we will set up our own type foundry, which is parallel to our design studio, which is arabictypography.com. And we distribute and publish the font directly and sell them directly. Every part has its advantages and disadvantages. If you want to go with a type foundry to publish your font, you will have to get the contact, you will have to get their interest, you will have to get them on board to publish it for you, and eventually the positive part is that you will use their experience, network, marketing, and yeah, you will share the profits from them. Doing it on your own gives you more control, of course, less support in terms of marketing, I guess. But also you will have to kind of do everything. You will have to set up a format, how to sell the font, how to distribute it, how to get paid, how to send it. So it becomes more complicated, but of course you are in full control over it and full control over profit as well.
So Hashim Garashi has something that's quite provocative, I think, in his approach, and so I think it's going to be very interesting. Hashim is saying each design project is considered as a battle. Is it expected to win all your battles, or is it win some, lose some?
Win some. For me, win some, lose some. I cannot, it's impossible to win every battle. I think, I mean, running your own design studio is a battle every day. You go on a roller coaster of emotions daily. No, it's impossible to win the battle of every design project, because the moment you are working with clients, it makes it extremely difficult. Like, and you have to choose your battles. Like, what's more important for you? To me, I feel, of course, if I'm designing just for myself without a client on self-initiated projects, there I want to be winning the battle completely the way I want it. But when you are working with different factors, different clients, the battle is to kind of like maintain the balance. How do you get the level that you really want? Sort of balanced with the expectations, with the requests, with the clients who you feel sometimes they are, you know, circumstances that are fighting you actually rather than supporting you. But that's the nice part of design actually. I noticed that the bigger the projects are, the more visible the projects are, the more tough of battles they are. So with time and experience, you kind of learn how to choose your battles and fight for these.
Aja Sweeney says, and how to politely convince your clients the value of your efforts and intellect. And I think that ties into the concept of your let's say a kind of pseudo formulaic approach for pricing your work. Hassan Ahmed Al Hamid was asking about a workflow to create Arabic typeface and how to publish it, which I think is a pretty extensive process. But he was following up on that question.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, every type designer work very different. Like, a design process is very different from one design to the other, from one designer to the other. To me, the workflow of particularly designing a typeface is not very different than sort of any design project. It always starts with conceptualizing what we want to do and thinking really about what the concept is, what are we trying to do. Then comes sketching. So if we decided what kind of a typeface we are doing, why we are doing, what's our inspiration behind it, you know, we start sketching and sort of doing this experimental part with design, sketching, trying, experimenting to define visually what are we doing. Then comes the long process of designing a typeface, which is literally drawing every possible glyph and every letter in all forms in Arabic, programming it. We use Glyphs app as a program to program it. And then comes the long part of sort of technical revisions versus spacing, testing. We print, we look at it again. If that's a print font, we test it on screen. If that's a font for TV, and that can go on forever. You can work on a typeface all your life. You know, I had a teacher always saying there is no finished typeface. There is an abandoned typeface. You just decide to stop working on it. And then comes the publishing part, which is either delivering it to a client to use or distributing it for other designers. Yeah, that's it in very short. But of course, the process of a typeface can be designed, can be developed. Yeah, can be explained in a session on its own, actually.
Exactly. Zaid Malas doesn't have a question, but he says, Tarek, he's been a fan of yours ever since you came to AUK once. Thank you for coming back every year.
I remember Zain, of course.
Yeah. Right. And Lara has said, I've been freelancing for a long time now. Should we continue with design directions we learned, or should we explore new directions, maybe become more digital oriented, or maybe animation oriented, and she says, it's Lara, by the way.
Hi,
I hope
Lara.
I pronounced.
Okay. I mean, how to? No, I think design, like, it's not the type of design that will change. It's our approach to it. Design has always had to adapt to what's happening around us. You know, already when social media appeared, we had to adjust our design skill to kind of fill a new landscape. You know, suddenly a small post on your Instagram was became more relevant than a poster that was on the street. So design always has to adjust to changes, and changes has been very rapid in our world over the last 20 and 30 years. So I don't necessarily think that we have to be more particularly digital. I don't think that traditional graphic design is gone. We've been making, somehow we have been making now in this period more book design than before.
Wow.
Because actually, funnily, people took this sort of reset mode. People took it as a chance to either start their book project that they always had in mind, or to provide content. So I think it's a sort of general approach of work that needs adaptation. And of course, we all become a bit more digital. I mean, I used to do workshops in a classroom. Now we are giving it digitally. That's a difference. But I don't think the core skills of design have to necessarily change, or core focus of design.
So Zaid Malas has another question. He said he wanted to ask, as COVID changes the way we view life, and professional life more specifically, many creatives are working from home and many are losing their jobs and counting on online freelancing to continue their work. And as a leading artist in the Arabic type in the world, are you looking for more ways to reach out and spread your knowledge and influence in the MENA region? Or are you happy with where your design firm is at and not looking to expand at the current time?
No, like in terms of expanding, we never wanted to expand. I was always happy with a small design studio, 4 to 6 people at most, because I thought that's when it stays, like my passion stayed in. I can still design. I'm still like looking at it in a passionate way. Anything beyond 6 people becomes running a big agency, and it becomes only management and less creative. And I'm not interested in that, actually. To be honest, things for us did not really change a lot, because we were in Europe and most of our clients were everywhere, scattered around the Arab world. So we kind of always worked online, even though we were coming to the same office. But I have been traveling. I had to spend big part of the year in the Arab world. So the way of working, in the sense that clients were not close to us, and we always had to present online and work online, even among us as a team, didn't change considerably. So yeah, we had this idea always. We used to ask ourselves, do we really still need an office? Do we really still need to come together? I mean, I personally found my biggest inspiration for design in travel, in the fact that I could move around and travel around. I relied on being in the Arab world and going from one place to the other. I relied on traveling in all over the world, because to me, travel is the best inspiration for design. You see new cultures, you see new brands, you see new designs, you see new challenges. So literally last year, we were asking ourselves, can we stop with the office? Can we just be a digital studio? And in practice, it won't change much for us, because our clients are never next to us. Now all the world is asking this question. And apparently to many, it seems possible. But yeah, no, we don't have a massive change of approach because of what happened. It's more for us about managing the change that's happening on the other side with our clients, with the way that people are working and so on.
So there were several people who were asking questions, but I might move around for people who are asking new questions. So forgive me, viewers, if I don't go in chronological order. Sasha is saying, as a successful graphic designer, do you encourage students to go for a minor in marketing along with their bachelor's degree in graphic design?
It's always an advantage, of course. I think a minor in marketing would would be absolutely relevant for graphic designers. I mean, a lot of my clients come from a marketing background. So if you can sort of speak their language and understand more their side, it's great. So definitely I advise it. I actually think any double major or minor outside design would help you tremendously as a designer, because you start being able to think like a non-designer, and that's a big advantage. That's always a good advantage when you're able to think not like a designer. So yeah, absolutely. I always think though also that successful designers are the ones that have managed to develop the widest range also of non-design skills. All the soft skills that are not related to design can help you so much shine as a designer and actually achieve things as a designer. So yeah, absolutely, go for it if you can.
So what are your thoughts on intellectual property theft in today's digital world, and how should we deal with it, especially on social media?
Yeah, I mean, in the Arab world, unfortunately, it's really bad. Like we have I mean, we see our own fonts pirated on the highest level. Sometimes, you know, we see companies using our fonts that they've never bought, or other designers copying your work and happily sharing it. We can't do much. We have a long way still to go. Like, design is relatively still new. We are all trying in our way to go about our day-to-day work in design, to try to make collectively the design profession a better place, and help influence society with knowledge about design. Yeah, I can't do much about it. Sometimes I take it positively, like I see work copied, for example, our work copied and so on, and I say, good, we are people are at least imitating us. Take it as a good thing. When we can do something legally, of course, if it's a big company doing something wrong, we go and take it legally, because I think they need to learn their lesson more than anything. And we try to educate. Like, sometimes, honestly, a lot of times people also like don't respect intellectual property out of lack of knowledge more than anything. So when we can, we try to talk to the people first directly, let them know, and then see how we take it from there.
I always suggest that ethics in the liberal arts program across all disciplines is something that should be studied, not from a more moralistic aspect, but like talking about those ethical situations that happen throughout our lives, whether it's at university level or professional. I think that could be something to consider. And I saw a very interesting Fahad al-Rashid saying, "Hi Tarek, when will Arabic typography be as beautiful as Arabic calligraphy, as used for writing like nasb and ruq'a? And what do you think about technology such as Kalim.com and Imashq in pushing the boundaries of what Arabic typography can become?" Disclaimer, I'm the co-founder of Kalim.com. Okay, go ahead. That's awesome.
Good. I mean, when will typography be as beautiful as calligraphy? We will have to see. I think typography is developing like super quickly, and we are already seeing some like young designers, upcoming designers, established designers in the last 2 decades or so that have done great work. Everyone who was at Typecal last year was an example of transforming typography to be as beautiful as calligraphy. Of course, the history of calligraphy is much longer than our history of typography. So of course, it's a challenge to match it, but it will be. I mean, and I judge them as 2 separate things, so I don't even try to compare between both. About like particularly the platforms you mentioned, I honestly can't answer, because I haven't looked at it a lot. I don't know them so much. I'm someone if I need sort of like the beauty of manual calligraphy, I would just go all the way with it, manual. I wouldn't try to find something digital that try to reconstruct the manual. But since you're the founder of it, maybe we get to talk and you show me properly what the platform does, and then I can give you my opinion about it.
There you go. All right. So I don't think that this is, it's more of a comment. During the digital era, design education has become unprecedentedly accessible, and there are lots of people presenting themselves as online design educators, advocating for online design education, sidelining the importance of academic approach in design. Ojaswani says, do we need to get copyright patents to make a claim for intellectual property?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I have to say, not with every project we did that. I mean, when I was studying in New York, that was an important part, and we had just one class in our master's program about intellectual property, and it was given by a lawyer. So that kind of opened our eyes a lot. But it put us in touch directly with a lawyer specialized in intellectual property, who was our teacher, so we could consult with him. I haven't like necessarily from the it's very difficult from the beginning of your career. Every time you do a project, that you go through the hassle of copywriting it, and to be honest, in the Arab world, sometimes even if you copyright it, it's going to be stolen and distributed and everything. For my clients, I offer it now. It's up to them if they want to do it or not. Ideally, yes, every project you do, you should, especially if you are starting a new idea, if you're developing a typeface, if you are developing a new concept or a brand, you should ideally do it. But of course, it comes with costs, it comes with a lot of work, and you have to balance what's possible and what's feasible when you're starting your career.
It seems that there's this concern that seems to be resonating about, and it's come up a few times, about the future of design education. Hashim Grashi brought it up again and says, what do you think about this transition? And I also think that and I think that it even ties in with the understanding of copywriting design, so that I personally see that there's a tie-in. And so this is something that Hashim and Ojaswini both commented on.
I mean, I think design education is the hardest one to predict how this is going to develop, because I honestly think like design practice, I could see it changing radically, and we could like really do a lot by moving to be completely remote. Design education, this is going to be extremely hard, because there is, in my opinion, it's very hard to replace the actual design studio, like the working hour of a design studio. So we might not be able to do it, but I think whoever is getting in the future that sort of traditional design education will always have an advantage. Always. What I've learned in the class was more not through directly the lecture or directly the material provided, but it was more through the experimental stuff that are happening around you, the talks. Yeah, that's what makes design education really. So that's a tough one to predict.
So Zaid Malas and Ilyas Shantiri, they have two different questions, but again, there's a tie-in. Zaid says, do you think that since now everything's online, more and more hidden talents will be able to shine and surface, since they couldn't before, as obstacles such as visas and access to and nationalities were a problem? And Ilyas says, my question is how do you get noticed and get known as a designer in the Arabic typography field? So Tarek, it looks, I think, like
how do you get known is really like there are three things when you do it you can't go wrong. It's hard work, it's developing talent, and it's ambition. When you have these three things, it is impossible not to get noticed. Maybe you get delayed, maybe circumstances are going to stop you, but when you work hard and when you have a little bit of talent that you work on developing, and when you have the ambition to grow, to show, to create, that's how you get noticed. The goal should never be I want to be noticed, or I want. The goal should be like really focused on yourself, and then do great work, and the rest will happen automatically. And yeah, the other questions that now, with less sort of, with everything moving online, designers are able to shine more and be noticed more. Yes and no. I think the internet has been here for the last 20 years. Like in reality, nothing changed. When you do good work and share it, We didn't need this to. Maybe now some opportunities emerge that people are more willing to hire someone who is geographically very different. But we have been hired remote while we are in a remote different parts for the last 20 years since internet existed. But maybe people are aware now that they can, they don't need to physically be in one place to do it. But nothing's changed in practice, I think.
So it'd be very interesting, Tarek. I'm trying to see now. Mariam just gave me a clock saying we've got 15 minutes left with you. I thought the time has been flying. It would be wonderful if you wanted to share other insights or some of the projects that you said you could possibly.
I could show possibly some of the recent projects we did, but if the questions are interesting and there is more, I'm also happy to continue with the questions because the projects I will show them anyways. I will put them, like.
So Aja Sweeney says, which artists inspire you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I look at. At the end of the day, any form of art that makes you look inspires you. Inspires me. I'm not like really looking specifically this and this. I'm constantly following. To a big extent, to me, my classmates always inspired me. They all became artists. Everyone took the design field in his own way, and I love to follow them very closely because we started together. We got the same kind of education and tools, and everybody took it in a different way. And because you know them as friends as well, they inspire you a lot. So always my classmates, who I think all are doing great in their specific focus, are my inspiration. I don't necessarily need like a big artist to be inspired by. I'm inspired by my classmates.
Brilliant. As Zaid says, since your main product is Arabic typography, what made you open an office in Europe instead of Beirut or a MENA country?
Very good question. Very, very good question. Well, two reasons. One, I wanted to be in Europe. I didn't want to be in the Arab world. I feel I connect more with Europe as a person, but I also feel the level of design here raises my level. I feel I'm working and everything else is pushing me to do better and higher work. While unfortunately in the Arab world, you're working and you feel everything is pushing you down. It's more challenging. I actually have a lot of respect for designers working in the Arab world because it's easier to produce better work when you are in Europe than when you are in lots of reasons. From us in the Arab world, we even for us, clients in the Arab world, they appreciate you more for some reason as a company coming from Europe. That's very colonial still. So it's kind of horrible. When you come, if you want to be open in the Arab world, you're looked at as a local agency, and somehow that, in the eyes of many clients, makes you lose your edge, which is crazy if you ask me.
Yes.
And totally wrong. But I think the positive side of it is it has helped us have a critical distance with the Arab world. Because I think had I opened my studio in Beirut, let's say where I grew up, I would have always been kind of a Lebanese designer looking at the Arab world. And I think the moment I was out, I started looking differently at Lebanon. I started understanding the Gulf in a much better and deeper way. And I started looking at it as a whole and had this sort of critical distance that helped us understand it better.
Very insightful. Okay. I haven't seen any additional questions popping through. I'm sure it seems like perhaps if you, I remember what you said vividly, Tarek, because when you did our Typecal, and you were looking at the poster designs and the street, the urban, and it was like, it was something like my late father used to tell me when he brought me to Kuwait for the first time. He said, I want you to see Kuwait as if you're, a tourist or a visitor. So it's like every time you come back to these places, you're seeing it with new eyes. So you take you're recreating this impression when you are back wherever home is for you at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it gives you a different type of appreciation and of the aesthetics, and you probably sense them more because you're not here all the time.
Yeah. You start appreciating kind of invisible beauty much more when you can switch the eye between being a local versus a
True.
non-local. Which has been very helpful.
So there's another question, Carl Mhenna. How do we improve our design ways and results? And how do we know that we actually are improving?
Good question. Yeah, I ask myself this every day. Am I improving? Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? That's a part of the creative process. I always say design is like sports. You have to train. You know, I say tennis, and I always say design is like tennis. You have to train. You have to keep doing it and keep learning yourself. It's a matter of practice. Improving is really like, I mean, there is a continuing education aspect to design that never finishes. You always have to kind of read more, do more workshops. Through my career, I stopped so many times to go and take a 3-month course or a 3-month workshop, even when I was running my design studio, even when I didn't need to do it, because I feel you cannot, you can't learn something and build on it for the rest of your life. The world is changing, technology is changing. You need like to sharpen your skills. And how do you know if you actually are improving? That's difficult, but the design with time, you can judge it. You can see did it work, did it not work. You don't necessarily have to improve with every project you do, but after some time, I look back at projects and critically look where did it succeed, where did it fail, and of course you learn more from the failing projects than the successful projects. So you fail and you learn. Yeah.
Zaid says, have you ever heard of 99 Designs? What's your take on that? It's a much different take on freelance, but is it more effective or appealing for both designers or clients?
I did not hear about it actually, so I will have to check it out.
So yes.
But I know that in sort of with freelance, there's a lot of models. But yeah, since we set up the kind of a working model for us in the studio, maybe that's why I don't like look at these things much anymore. But I will check it out then.
So Hashim Grashi says, do clients predetermine their project outcome when they decide to approach an Arabic typographer, such as yourself? A specialist approach, perhaps? He says he asked the same question to Stefan Sagsmeister.
I mean, I think, I believe so much that and I always say that sort of design is a point of view. You as a designer bring in your personality, bring in your knowledge, bring in your take on life and your experience, and every designer does it differently. So I think when you come to a designer, you kind of want his personality in it, like I much more value clients who spend a lot of time critically selecting their designers. So I'm comfortable when I feel a client is asking a lot of questions before we start. Because I know these kind of clients, after we start, they let you do what you want to do. They make sure before that you are in the same direction or personality that they want to work with. So yeah, I think design has a personal touch, and that's maybe the artistic part of it. You have your artistic touch on it, your personality, and when you go to a specific, if you're talking specifically about typography, you can look at the body work of a typographer and say, yeah, this is kind of the direction, or this is the approach, or this is the conceptual, or this is the experimentation I want to do, even though my fonts are different, they're all by the same person. So yeah, absolutely.
So we're nearing our time. Unfortunately, it just flew by, but I just wanted to go through, someone was mentioning, do we need more text Arabic fonts or display fonts? What is your advice to all design students? And how can one find his or her thing in order, wow, this is a major question, Sasha, saying, how can one find his or her own thing in order to excel, knowing that everything nowadays is digital and a big number of people are working as graphic designers without even majoring in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thanking you, Tarek, as well. Many are thanking. And then there's confusion between typography and calligraphy for most of the designers. So if you could make a good clarification And I think that will be the last question we will be, giving you at this time. So we'll have the questions end here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of questions in terms of, to go to the ones I remember or I managed to take notes for. What do we need more, text fonts or display fonts? We need both. The typography palette in Arabic is very limited still. Our library is still very small. We have a lot more than 10 years ago. We have a lot more than 20 years ago. We have really designers doing great work, but I still have very limited options when I want to use my text font. I still have very limited options when I do my display fonts. We need both, and the different designers are better at different things. I feel in some cases I do my display fonts better than text fonts, and some are other at text fonts. So I think everybody should see what their strength is and do it. We need both. What other questions I'm trying to remember? I mean, the thing, of course, this is a very main point, the amount of practicing designers who are not majoring in design. I think that with time is gonna clear itself very quickly. I honestly think design, you can't have like a designer professionally working if they are not getting really solid education in design. It's really not possible. You know, talent alone is not enough anymore. You have a lot of other, and design is not only about creating just creating one thing. It's also about the process of it. It's about the convincing part of it. It's about analyzing visually. It's about learning how to critique. It's about learning how to learn. So yeah, like competitively, if someone wants to be a professional designer doing meaningful work, I think it's currently impossible without really proper design education. And maybe there will be a lot of practicing designers who are doing it as a hobby almost. But that will give advantage, I think, to the designers who are really constantly working on themselves and developing their skills with education.
So learning how to learn. And Tarek, it's always a joy to hear your approach. It's always inspirational for us internationally and in the region. And you always take it up a few notches up, yet you do it so eloquently. Zaid says, please don't forget his 99designs.com question. I think there's something there. They're saying it's so insightful, and thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge. And basically, what we see here happening is that what's emerging definitely is where is design education moving forward. And I think this is it's a very vital time for us to be exploring this, and particularly with folks and people who are working professionally, and those students who will be graduating soon. Mariam, if you would also like to add anything to that. I wish I had you as a teacher when I was in design school, Tarek. It's amazing, really. I took your workshop during Typecal, and it was wonderful.
And you did the best sketches.
Well, I had to be up to the requirements. There were a lot of good students there.
I just want to say there was one question that really goes to what is your advice to all design students? And as an educator, I'm very curious to hear your answer to Badria.
Yeah, I think like a bit like I said, it's commitment. It's really commitment to design. It's a long like sort of long-term journey, long-term commitment. You're not gonna achieve like design goals like super quickly. Design always requires time, whether in a small project you require time. You cannot fast track design. You cannot just like find ways to go quickly about it, sketch quickly, design quickly, get a good result. It's a process. It's a process that takes time. And so is a design career. So I think the best advice would be is to commit to it. You are into design, you studied it, Don't expect results very quickly. Don't expect that. Don't derive away from it so quickly. Like I think for me personally, I know what worked most is that I was sticking to sort of the same goal and the same things I learned. I learned graphic design and I stayed in graphic design. I defined what it is and I kept doing it and trying to do it again. And I'm still doing it now. We are still doing the same core of graphic design practice, the same that I learned at university, you know, the process, how do we get to a final result from a client brief to executing it. So maybe it changed, maybe it became for the real world, maybe it became for big project, but it's the same thing that I was taught how to do. So the commitment, the long-term commitment is the advice, not to give up and to work harder on it.
Don't give up and just keep moving forward. Tarek, thank you. Lubna, thank you. William, thank you. And
Thank you, William, as well.
All the participants that joined us today, thank you so much for coming in from all over. You will receive an email to complete a very short survey. So kindly fill it out and just press the send button. And in that email, you will also be informed of our next speaker, which is the date. We're finalizing our details, but it's Thomas Milo. And the next person, the next speaker would be Muhammad Qaber in August. So middle of August, end of August, you will receive information through our social media, website, email, and we thank you so much. Enjoy your beautiful evening, afternoon, daytime, wherever you are. And Tarek, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you for organizing this, and hopefully next time all of us in the same space in Kuwait.
We'll be in touch, everyone.
Great.
All
Thanks
the best.
so much. Bye. Bye.